Hi guys, welcome back to our Japan Talk series. In this series, we're going to take you on a beautiful walk through Japan, and while you guys are enjoying the scenery, we're going to talk to you about some aspect of Japanese culture or life in Japan. So for today's video, we are taking you through a walk through beautiful Iwakuni in Yamaguchi prefecture, so I hope you guys enjoy all the sights and sounds. And while you guys are enjoying those sights, our topic for today is the 5 biggest myths about Japan. I've been living in Japan for over 10 years, and I often find that when a lot of people come here for the first time, there's a lot of things that they get wrong about Japan. There's a lot of things where, their view of what they're going to be arriving to, it's actually quite different from the reality. So today I want to talk to you about the 5 biggest myths that I see people kind of falling victim to when they first move to Japan. So the number one myth that I see people not really quite understanding when they arrive to Japan is they believe that Japan is this really open and relaxed culture. A lot of people, Western people in particular, they first start becoming interested in Japan through, anime or through manga, and they see, a country portrayed in a way where people are really open, people are really quirky, people are really different, and they feel like it's a society where it's accepted. Oh, I can go to Japan and, everybody's into manga and anime, and I can do cosplay, and I can have, wacky hair, and, you can just kind of be whoever you want to be. Well, it's not really the case at all. In Japan, people who are really, into anime and video games are considered really very nerdy people, and often, people who are doing cosplay and stuff like that. They're really not accepted by society, and some of those types of people are even disowned by their family, because the reality is that Japan is an incredibly conservative society where conformity to a large level is really expected, and you're expected to conform to particular ways of dressing, particular ways of acting, and in Japanese society, anybody that's sort of sticking out of those layers of conformity, you really kind of get hammered down by society. You won't be accepted, you won't have the same opportunities of other people, and you'll be sort of living out on the dregs of society. So I see a lot of people that come to Japan and they expect this really open society where they can be whoever they want to be, and they find that it's really the opposite of that. And I've seen that sort of end a lot of people's love affair with Japan, and I've seen a lot of people just go home really quickly and disappointed because Japan wasn't what they thought it would be. So for me, that's probably the number one myth. The second largest myth about Japan is that Japan is some kind of technological mecca. So if you're living outside of Japan, you probably see, do you know what? There's a lot of technology products. There's a lot of big Japanese technology companies like Sony. So you would think, wow, Japan must be this technological mecca where, you arrive and it's like living in the future. But what I always tell people is that Japan is a place where technology is created, but it's not necessarily used. You will find that a lot of Western countries are a lot more technologically advanced, and the implementation of technology in society is a lot greater in countries outside of Japan. I would say I've been in Japan for 10 years, and when I came here 10 years ago, like, for example, public Wi-Fi, it was really, really difficult to find. Maybe only within the past 5 years, has that become a lot easier. And people aren't really accustomed to using technology in the workplace as much as we would be in Western countries. For example, in Japan, it is still very common to use fax machines for business. And in fact, you could be dealing with a lot of companies, doing business with a lot of companies where, they're asking you for some documentation, and you'd be like, can I just email you a PDF? And they'll be like, well, no, sorry, but you have to fax this. And you're thinking, well, I don't have a fax machine. How in the world am I going to send that to you? But that's Japan. A lot of businesses, they're still doing paper and pen type business. I've seen a lot of, older business people in Japan. They're really hesitant to move towards digital technology. Digital payment systems in Japan are still in the infancy stages. It's still very much a cash society. So just at large, technology is not well implemented into society itself. Okay, so that's the myth number 2. The third myth about living in Japan, or about Japan itself, is that Japanese people are really outgoing and they're really friendly. Well, I would say that, Japanese people are kind. I would say that, of course, I do feel that people are friendly, but people here are not outgoing at all. People in Japan very much keep to themselves, particularly in larger cities. If you are in a larger city in Japan, don't expect people to come up and start chatting you up, people to come up and just start, having small talk with you. Don't expect it to be easy to make friends, because people are very reserved. People very much stay within, whatever is their kind of little local, friend group, and they don't really journey outside of that too much. So I think one of the things that shocks people a lot about Japan is how difficult it can be to meet people, how difficult it can be to make friends, how difficult it can be to break into some of those friend groups. And people, I've seen a lot of people that move to Japan, particularly in the larger cities, and they just end up getting really lonely and feel like, they don't have any friends. Now, it is easier outside of the larger cities. If you're in the countryside, people, of course, will be just a little bit more open. Maybe they'll be a little bit more curious about you because there's less people in town, and, maybe they know everybody and they see that you're a new face, and they're interested. Well, why are you here? What are you doing, in this area? And so, it might be a little bit easier to at least have some conversation in some of the smaller towns. But again, those groups can be a little bit tight-knit, and the friends groups can be fully formed. But I would say, yeah, at large, Japan can be a challenging place to socialize in comparison to a lot of countries. And I think that's something that people often get wrong about Japan. The fourth myth that I want to talk about is that people believe that in Japan you can take a train absolutely everywhere and there's no need to have a car ever. Now, I will say that this is largely true. You can pretty much take a train all over the country, and in fact, for myself, train travel is by far my most preferred way to travel Japan. But when you are going out to the countryside, when you're going to some of these less populated cities, when you're going out to some of these less populated areas, will there be trains? Yes. But do they go all over the totality of the area? No. Are they going to travel at a schedule that will be convenient for you? No. I've been in some small towns in Japan where maybe there's only 2 trains a day that go to that area. There might be a 12-hour gap between trains. There might be a 3-hour gap. There might be a 6-hour gap between trains. The train may go nowhere near to where you would like to actually travel. So I have felt, particularly when I'm traveling to more rural areas in Japan, that it is necessary to rent a car sometimes if I really want to explore Japan in great depth. So yeah, please keep that in mind. You can go a lot of places. You could really enjoy a trip to Japan. You can really enjoy exploring a great variety of places. But if you want to go to some of the smaller, lesser known places, you may need to rent a car. And the fifth biggest myth that I would say about Japan is people, obviously Japan has very good cultural preservation. But when people come to Japan from, this ancient society that has such incredible diversity of culture and cultural preservation, you would think, well, all Japanese people must love Japanese culture. They must love Japanese traditional culture. But it's really not true. You will meet a lot of people, particularly from the younger generation. They might not like Japanese culture at all. They might not like Japanese traditional culture. They might not like old Japanese things, whatever it is. They might not like any of those things. And they might be very much into what would be considered more modern or Western culture. I have a lot of Japanese friends. I mean, me, being an outsider, from Japan and coming here, of course, I want to explore the tradition. I want to explore the culture. I want to see the traditional sites. I'm very interested in all of these historical things and all these, cultural things. But for Japanese people who've grown up here, I've seen plenty of people who have just no interest at all in any of those things, and they think you're weird for liking it, and they just want to focus on more modern aspects of their life, let's say. So I mean, for me, those are the top 5 myths that I see when people coming to Japan for first time. I would say the first one is really the one to be most cautious of. People that arrive to Japan and think it's like it is in animes or in manga, and it's just this free-floating, very open, understanding society. If you feel like that, and that's important to you, you're going to be mighty disappointed. All the other things, I think, not such a big deal. I think it's easily adaptable. But what about you? Have you traveled to Japan? Was there something here that was different than your expectation? Like after you arrived, did you think, okay, well, this was a lot different than what I felt? And did it disappoint you? Or were you kind of pleasantly surprised? And also, I want to ask you guys again, for future videos, is there another topic about life in Japan or Japanese culture that you would like me to cover? If so, please leave me a comment down below and I will make sure to make a video for you. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, if you found it enjoyable or helpful in any way, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting that thumbs up button, and leaving me a nice comment down below. That's all I have for today. I will catch you guys in the next video. See ya.